Welcome to the Just What I Needed to Hear podcast with Yoga Farm Ithaca, where we teach you how to live the principles of yoga both on your mat and off the mat in the living curriculum of your precious life.
So yeah, Sadhguru talks about this a lot, the dangers of Kundalini yoga. It's a pretty old school mindset that it comes from, and not old school in a bad way at all. I think it comes from a place of wanting people to be safe in their spiritual exploration, and the old school thought process of you cannot activate Kundalini in your body without an up close and personal teacher that is going to guide you through the entire process. Like, you need a guru to navigate moving through Kundalini awakening and expression in the body. And that's just old school. I mean, it's no different than you need a priest. You need it's no different than that. It's like your access to God as a human being and your God molecule, your Christ consciousness, whatever we're going to call it, right, is contingent on you being monitored by someone who showed with the accolades to let you know that you're doing it correctly and at the right pace and at the right time and all of that stuff. It's just old school. It's an old school way of approaching it. And it's a patriarchal way of approaching it. That message. And fear is so potent. You know, it's like the marketing math of, like, if there are 50 excellent reviews about a product online and then 5 shitty reviews, we're going to believe the 5 shitty reviews.
Right.
Because fear is so much more potent. Like, 50 friends that you have can have this amazing experience at this place or with this practice or with this product or with this thing. And you hear from one, oh, don't do that. I had a bad experience at that restaurant. Meanwhile, I've been eating at that restaurant for 17 years and never had a bad experience, right? Like, fear is it sticks like, Velcro in our brains because our survival mechanism. And so when people hear that danger, this is dangerous. And again, from that, like, patriarchal aspect of, you need someone above you to tell you what you can, what you cannot do, someone who is wiser, someone who has been through it. When we look at it through that lens, right? Like, a lot of that structure was put in place because it's easier to control people if they're afraid. It's easier to control people if they question their own intuition. It's easier to get them to buy in. I'm reading this, we're going to Ireland soon, and I'm reading this book of, like, the history of Ireland, and a lot of talk about, pre-Christianity in Ireland. And I don't know if anybody is aware of this, but it wasn't uncommon for people centuries and centuries and centuries ago to be enslaved in Ireland. And very often the enslaved people in Ireland were Christians, like, from Great Britain. And the people who were still kind of adhering to earth-based spirituality, the Druids, Celtic spirituality at that point, were like, oh, we let them practice Christianity because it helps keep them submissive. It helps keep them, like, go for it, like, be in that. It will require of you a somewhat of a sense of releasing your autonomy to something greater than what is inside yourself. And that doesn't mean that's the only way to interact with Christianity by any means. And it certainly was back then. And so a lot of the fear around these practices, and I'll say this probably until the day I die to anyone who is curious, is when you practice Kundalini yoga and the energy is awakening in you, and you're doing so in a way that is not to transcend being human, but to be the best human version of yourself so you can show up in service in this world. When you're committed to that, you are so full of a feeling of autonomy and sovereignty that you can't be controlled. You can't be controlled by what other people's ideas of this, do this, don't do this, definitely do this is wrong, this is right, this is the authority. You're more likely to be like, well, let me try that out. Let me try that on. Let me maintain curiosity around this and critical thinking around this. And I'll get back to you when I've had an experience. And we can approach all spiritual traditions that way. And they're all beautiful in their right. And then also human egos get involved and it gets a little wonky.